Well, we've got a few more minutes here. Let's talk about your career.
Sure.
So just thinking about all the different jobs you had throughout your life, what are some memorable moments of your career that really stand out or that you enjoyed the most?
Well, I enjoyed public accounting. That was what I started into with Arthur Andersen. And you know, they went out of business.
Yeah.
They got out of favor after I left. And so, but I enjoyed that very much. But I was lazy again. I didn't particularly want to do all the studying I would need to do to become a CPA. And I would have to if I wanted to make that a career. So then I had an opportunity to go with Ford. And as it was presented, it sounded like a good deal because they were going to take me to Ford. We were going to do some training. I was going to travel around the country auditing dealerships. And then they were going to bring me back to Kansas City, and I would be responsible for a division, and I would hire somebody to work with me auditing the dealerships here. Sounded great. Well, that was never going to happen. Things just don't happen the way they're planned. I didn't like my boss particularly, my immediate boss, because I like my big boss. But in the Ford, you got, how many bosses do you have? And my immediate boss and I didn't really, I thought I knew more than he did. He was a jerk type thing. And so we weren't really compatible, so that Carolyn's mom came down with breast cancer, and I just said, okay, that's an arrow that says we need to stay. We never moved away from Kansas City. Eventually we would have had to move to Detroit, Dearborn.
So then what did you do?
Then I just went on the open market looking for a job here with agencies, I think. Said I didn't want to have travel, did not want to travel. So I said, you know, I'm looking, I wasn't a very good little duck in a big puddle. I want to be a big duck in a little puddle. And so I did some interviewing. Cutting a long story short, I ended up with a wholesale electrical supply company because it was owned by a Jewish family out of St. Louis, actually, but they had a branch here. And they had probably 50 or 60 employees. It was a wholesale electrical supply house. And they felt like they needed a person in the middle to go between the family and the workers. So that was what I signed on. Boy, you know, that's starting a brand new job with no idea what you're getting into. And basically office manager, accountant, even in charge of the warehouse type thing, which I really had no experience on. I was there for about 8 or 9 years. Yeah. And then a fellow that I worked with's brother happened to own a smaller wholesale electric supply house. That brother was ready to take over from his father at Missouri Valley Electric. And he was buying his father's stock. And his father had they bought this business from somebody else, I guess. But anyway, it was being run by his father and an older couple. Well, the father was going to go out of business. This couple was going to retire. Well, they did the accounting and the finance and the office, and so they needed somebody. And I think that the two brothers talked. And matter of fact, Morse, the fellow I worked with, made a note, gave me an envelope one day and says, "You don't open this for now, I'll let you know when." And it says you're going to join Missouri Valley. And so that was...
So you did?
Yeah.
Was that a good move for you?
Oh, sure.
Was that your favorite job, would you say, or the one you liked the most?
Keeping in mind that you're buying into a company, you're buying stock, you're a minority stockholder, but yet you're more opportunities. You're fighting to keep the profits up because you're going to get a share of the profits. And as a matter of fact, the Morse, I ended up talking him into joining us, even though the brothers had fallen out in years past. I ended up bringing him over to Missouri Valley. And then I ended up, when Bob died, which was the guy I joined, we worked together over there, which was really a great relationship. And then, but Bob died, so then I actually took over the company. And there's some disappointing parts of that. But I took over the company, and we brought in another son-in-law. After he took over, I ran the company. I was president and CDO. Then he came in, and I got out of the business, which he was happy to have me go. And he ran the business into the ground, spent all kinds of money, and they ended up, I think he even did some bad accounting, and ended up being bought by another company for practically nothing. And then he was supposed to buy my stock. First of all, when I retired, he was supposed to buy my stock, and that never happened. So we lost a ton of dough. So that was really a tough part. However, I would never be here if it weren't for the 25 years or whatever I spent at Missouri Valley. And that was good time. That was good.
It sounds like you have a lot of things that keep you busy. Golf, you're still golfing?
Still golfing.
Do you play tennis still?
Only down at the lake. because I had shoulder problems, one operated on, one not. So I don't do good, can't do serving, but
Yeah.
I can hit a golf club, but I can also play tennis.
And you play cards, bridge and poker?
Uh-huh.
Do you still do both of those?
Yeah. I'm part of a poker group from Black and Beach. And then the bridge groups right now are here. Caroline has one from church that she still goes to. But I've got involved in 2 nights here, one from the guys, where it's supposed to be a little more serious. Wednesday night is for people that want to get brushed up and have fun and not serious. And then a couple of the guys, 3 of the guys that were going over to Lakeview, which is kind of serious. We play 4 people from Lakeview, and they play at 10 o'clock in the morning. We leave here about 9:30. Play in the morning, and then they bring in a snack, or actually a lunch, and then I play in the afternoon until we're done. It's a complete round robin.
Wow.
Well, and I tried to teach Carl and Terry, and that didn't go anywhere.
I feel like it's sort of lost on our generation a little bit,
I think
but
it
it is a good thing to know. So, you've done a lot of traveling. I understand you had a special trip to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a great memory?
It was. It was. It's a one-in-a-lifetime type thing.
Especially since they won.
Yeah, especially since they won.
And then you got to go to the Masters golf tournament.
And that was after I became president of the company. Why then, the vendors show you a little more appreciation when you're president and CDO. So we got to go down for the Masters for 4 days.
Was that a thrill?
It was. It was fantastic.
And then also you went to Hawaii with friends?
Right. And another cruise with other friends, with a bunch of friends, but that included the 2 we went to Hawaii with.
So you did quite a bit of traveling.
We did.
Yeah.
Particularly after I was actually traveling with Bob, because he and I were basically running the company. He was taking care of sales and warehouse, and I was taking care of all internal other than sales. And so we were basically just split our responsibilities down. He did his thing, I did my thing, and we were very successful. We grew the company very good.
Well, and you've been a member of the same church, Valley View, since 1962.
Yeah.
Tell me, what does your faith mean to you?
Probably not as much as it should, being quite honest, and I'm not sure why. It's interesting, Carl and Terry. Carl have a very strong faith, I think, from what I can gather, which is undoubtedly stronger than mine at this point. And Cheryl, I think, has kind of fallen off the wayside a little bit. So Craig got really hot on it at one time, and then after he got out of the ministry, I don't think so much, but I don't know about his personal faith. It may still be there. But actively, I don't think it's there. Caroline, I think, has a little stronger faith in that area than I do. And mine comes back to more reserved, or I'm not a huggy, and I'm more reserved, I guess, in that area.
And let's move on now to our reflective time. You mentioned that your boss at the Federal Reserve was a person who had a great influence on you. Anyone else in your life?
I think Caroline.
Sounds like you two have a really strong relationship.
I think so. We tolerate each other.
Any secrets to your long marriage?
I don't know. Commitment. I mean, it's there, and I think we both never considered not doing.
Any hard lesson you've had to learn in your life?
Patience, I suppose. I can get impatient sometimes. And I had to learn that with Caroline, too. I'm a doer. And if we have something to do, let's do it and get it done. And she would really think about it. And as I see things like the TV, for example, starting to go bad, I'd say, let's go get a new one. She said, well, let's wait till this one breaks.
Right. So you just had to learn to give and take a little bit, and patience.
Patience was probably a significant part of it, yeah.
Any regrets that you have?
The biggest regret I have has to do with the Missouri Valley, the way it ended up with the son-in-law and all that kind of stuff. That's probably my biggest regret, because we did lose a lot of money. And it wasn't how I visualized I would be retiring. I'm visualizing, I'd go back over and visit and say hi to everybody, Hell, I never went back after. I didn't really want to be around the guy, and I still had employees that would call, and I'd see them sometimes at funerals and stuff like that. But that's a regret, probably, where you visualize you're retiring, going out in style, and it didn't happen that way. It didn't work. So that's probably my one regret.
What major world event in your lifetime do you think had the greatest impact on you?
Well, Korea for one thing, and probably Korea because it got me in the service, and the stock market because we've done pretty good on the stock market. And a lot of that is by inheritance also. But, what we got, we've done pretty well with.
How about thinking over the span of your life, major changes? A lot has changed in our world in your lifetime. What do you think is maybe the biggest change?
Oh, I see the smartphones, which I don't have one, as you probably know, which I will get. I think my kids are going to jam it down my throat. Carl's already done some investigative stuff on what I might be able to do, especially with our two granddaughters turning in some 6s. I think we're going to end up with a couple of 6s here before too long. So the computers, because at Missouri Valley I had the opportunity to actually start from scratch on a computer programming and bring it up and make it custom for our business.
And when you think about what you were doing at the Federal Reserve, all by hand, and what computers could do today.
Of course, those were tough years for my family too, because I was working a lot of days and nights and even some all nights type things during that time. But Cheryl once said her memories show me as spending my time at the dining room table at night.
Working.
and she wasn't going to fit into that category.
What are some of the happiest times, or maybe the happiest time when you think back?
Conventions and vacations and kids. Kids with the vacation. Kids at the lake and watching them grow up and be successful and all that kind of good stuff.
What makes you really happy?
Seems like everything ties back to kids and grandkids and cards, bridge, poker,
kids.
Golf.
Yeah. Any really difficult time that you felt like you went through?
I think my mom hit me pretty hard.
Losing her at a relatively young age for you.
And Caroline and her fractures, that's been tough. She had 2 breaks in the same year, one with the pelvic and then the hip. And that's where she's at right now.
It's difficult, yeah. What's the best advice that you've ever received, would you say?
Well, back to Dusty Rose Bank. For some reason, that's the first thing that pops in my mind. I'm assuming that there may be some, but other than that, I think I've done my own thing.
That really changed the trajectory of your life.
I think so.
Well, what are you most proud of?
Well, I know I wrote down what we already talked about, getting 3 kids through college and financial times and the family.
Anything that you'd still like to accomplish in your life?
Smartphone.
Hopefully that'll happen soon, right?
And getting more comfortable at Santa Marta. This still isn't home. And the reason we're in this particular unit is because it's as close to home as we could get. And I figured if we're going to spend 10 years at some place, and we can do this once we determined that we could, why, this was make it as comfortable as possible, as much like home. So basically it is. We gave up our living room and we gave up room in the kitchen. But other than that, my office is intact. Pretty much the dining room and the family room are pretty much intact. Bedrooms, I guess she's got more room in her bedroom than she had before. And a humongous closet.
Well, and just making it work here.
That's going to be an ongoing thing. We watched the 10-year people, and we noticed that the people who have been here for a while tend to become cliquish. I mean, they tend to spend their time together because they've known each other for a long time. Whether we reach that point down the road, who knows? We'll see.
You seem to be very happy and active in your later years.
I would say I would not have guessed that I'd be able to have, 20 or 25 years of retirement as healthy as I have been. So,
any secrets to how you've stayed so healthy and active?
Well, active I think is one thing, sports for one thing, because I played tennis at the racket club on Sunday nights once I found out didn't have to be a member. I joined the club and then I dropped it because I couldn't play during the week while I was working, but I could play on Sunday nights, and they'd match me up with young people, and then I'd learn to say yours. But I was also a pretty good tennis player.
So just staying active then, not
staying
stopping.
Active, I'd say, yeah. And the golf and the genes. I mean, Dad was 94, so I can't claim any responsibility for that.
Any guiding philosophy that you've tried to hold to throughout your life?
Probably one, do what's right. That kind of replaces a little bit of my faith, because I'm doing what the faith I think teaches you to do, but I put a little different, and I taught my people at Missouri Valley, hey, if you got a decision to make, figure out what the right thing to do is, and let that guide your decision. I've tried to do that with kids too.
Any words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
Do what's right. For whatever reason, that has always been really a guiding principle. Working with people, business, and sometimes that wasn't real popular in business. If you figure out what the right thing to do is versus the most profitable, for example. So I guess just that.
Well, when your family thinks of you, how do you want them to think of you? Or how do you want to be remembered by them?
Well, I hope the loving might be a word. Active would be probably a word that would be appropriate. You know, there's a lot of things I might like for them to think about me as, but as I view it objectively, I don't know that they would.
Is there something you would like to tell them that maybe you don't think they know?
They probably know everything there is to know. Yeah, I think so. They probably do. Carl, he mentioned to me one time as far as what he was doing with his kids, and he said, Dad, I want it to be like you did with us. That meant a lot to me.
This has been a Voices in Time production. Visit us at voicesintime.com.